Welcome, reanimated fans, to this week's episode of Reanimated Podcast. I'm H.A. Conrad, coming to you from Brooklyn, and here with me is my intrepid co-host. We're both a little light on sleep this week, but Stuart Tiffin, how's it going?
I want to go back to bed.
And today we are talking about the next couple of episodes of season 2 of Mayfair Witches. And we only have one little news tidbit, though I have to say, I think that scientists are excited about this. I am a little, more scared, not scared of this, but this is like, what are you doing? But anyway, this is one of those permafrost stories where they have revived this worm that's about 24,000 years old. And when they thawed it out, it immediately started asexually reproducing. What could go wrong? And I mean, look, I think it is exciting and interesting, and maybe there's things that you can learn, but I always have worries about this kind of thing just because, our ecosystem is a thing, and you just don't know how these little things can perchance affect it. Hopefully, it's not carrying any weird viruses or anything like that. But my immediate reaction was, "Oh, why did you do that?" So
To see
I
if
don't
they
know.
could, to see if it would
I
work.
know.
And then it did. And so I think they're all clapping and, excitedly pointing and waving at this worm. Hopefully it's going to be a nice worm.
I hope he's a friendly worm. And look, it is very exciting. Like from a cryogenics point of view, I think that that's a little bit of what they're talking about, and maybe there's a lot that you could learn from, the ecosystem before. So there's positive things that could happen too. But I always am like, what conditions is this being held under? You know, is this, and this is probably just my horror film cautionary tale instincts kicking in here, but that's what's going on today. Um, Not a lot of other news, though. I think we're awaiting some things to be released, so we're excited about that. But because I know Cannes Film Festival, the much awaited Colony, will be premiering there, so I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
These lulls happen from time to time. It's
yeah,
part of the natural process.
I will say Vampire Lestat is also, I think, ready to go, right? Or very soon, anyway.
Oh, I imagine, yeah. I have not been looking for it, but certainly they released several trailers.
Yeah, I think it's out. Oh no, sorry. It is let's see. No, June 7th. So it's coming. So there's just been, maybe that's why I've been seeing a lot of it, that they're kind of getting it getting it all teed up.
Yeah.
So it's been all over the place. So that is one other piece of news that's been kind of floating around. So lots going on with the Anne Rice universe right now. Uh,
Hmm.
but so today we're going to just talk about another branch of that universe, which is Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, and these are the second set of two episodes from the season two, and they're called Cover the Mirrors and then Double Helix. And I don't think we've been talking about who has been directing these, but
Oh,
it has been a variety of people.
hmm.
The first two were directed by Colin Buxey and Logan Kibbins, and written by Esther Spalding, who I think is the showrunner, and Sarah Cornwell. And then episode three is directed by Logan Kibbins again and written by Megan Moston Brown. And then episode four is directed by Sarah O'Gorman and written by Kat Davidson. And I just like there's a lot of lady power and apparent in the behind the screen sort of stuff,
Yep.
which you would hope for in a story about a coven, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so we begin with a little crossover. I bet you were. I mean, I assume that you were happy to see some crossing over and some introduction of some Anne Rice vampires
I was. That was kind of cool.
because there were a couple
Um,
in these two episodes.
yep. So I did like how they used this. I thought this was kind of cool. Um, it's like Lasher is something he doesn't even fully know what he is, and so this is basically him kind of wandering around, being a little bit lost and trying to, I don't know, I guess gather his thoughts. Maybe that's the best way to put it. And I think he's running on sort of pure instinct, and he's, Rowan is probably in his mind betrayed him, but he does have a thing that he is doing.
I mean, she did try
But
to kill him.
I mean, she did. Um,
Do you get the impression that he's literally just wandering around from Mayfair to Mayfair? Because that is the only thing he seems to do is when he's outside, he inevitably kind of wanders up to a Mayfair person. So when this vampire approaches him in the park, I
yep.
think he's pretty much just on his way to a Mayfair person at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like I think his whatever genetic something other that's going on or whatever the thing that he keeps smelling, and to be clear, look, there's a reason why he's kind of like this family has prospered and there's a lot of them, and so like he's essentially created, whatever it is within the city. So it isn't too far for him to like find someone, I suppose, but in this, I kind of liked how he ends up in this little park, and it is interesting just to have like a vampire end up in the scene and not really know what to do with Lasher either. Like,
Doesn't even try to bite him, which I
oh
thought
no,
because at first he's like, "Oh, what do you got there? You're bleeding." And
yep,
but then as soon as he starts talking to him, he's like, I'm actually, he doesn't say this, but he doesn't
no,
try to bite him at all. He, in fact, goes to bite somebody else later.
yep,
But instead is it can tell for sure and says like, I can tell that you're different. You're something I've never run into before. And
yep,
Lasher's like, I don't know. What am I? Help me.
yep,
It's really scary. What's the scariest thing about this scene is that the vampire gives him some life advice, and it doesn't seem like he's a particularly smart individual, this vampire.
mm-mm,
He's like, yeah, just follow your do exactly what you want to do. That's the vampire credo. And Lasher really takes that to heart, kind of for the rest of the story that we see him in these two episodes.
yep. I will say, the accent was a little weird, but
The
okay,
dude's English. He's trying to do a Louisiana, unless it's one
not
of those
really good.
crazy New Orleans accents that when have you ever run into someone from New Orleans who has a like a Brooklyn or a East Coast sounding accent, but they're actually
Yeah,
from Louisiana?
it is weird.
It
Yep.
wasn't one of those, but I think
No.
that was just an Englishman trying
Yeah.
to do a New Orleans, which was
Yeah.
not super successful.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody remembers from the interview with the vampire series, but this is the vampire that was like basically catching rats for Lestat.
Yeah, I thought that okay. I mean, he does. He's like my master says,
Yep.
and then he's young enough that I thought maybe he was the rat catcher. Did you like look him up?
I thought it was him, but I'll admit to you, it's been a while since I saw that, so I needed to make sure. So yes, I did. I thought it was him, but I wasn't positive.
Well, that yeah, that's good.
And it's and also when he's talking about, and then that actually gives a little bit more context to being like my master says, because he's talking about Lestat. So I thought
Hmm.
that that was kind of fun. um but the worldview that he has, and we know what Lestat's worldview is, and kind of inserting that into Lasher's mind where he doesn't know what's going on, and I think that this gives him a different view on things maybe.
Yeah.
And
If only he'd run into a Buddhist monk in the park that night
I know,
instead of a
right?
vampire. But
Right.
yeah, it does just make him double down, and the way that he's acting around Evelyn later is like quite a turn from how he's been with the other ladies that he's approached.
Yep. Uh,
But we jump away after because then that vampire goes and murders like a security guard or something, and the dude is screaming really loudly. It's like a really loud out in the park murder scene from across the park we're listening to it, or Lasher is. And I'm like, wow, this is not subtle.
yep.
So
Um,
we jump away from that though to scenes of Cortland on the phone doing his job for Rowan that she'd recruited
mhm.
him for, which is get everybody to come over. That's basically what the plot is for this episode is she really wants everybody to come over so she can quote unquote protect them and cast a spell on Lasher, aka or kill him. I think at first she's talking about putting him in a thrall, but eventually she has to commit to trying to kill him.
Yep.
But I don't know that any of us really thought that she was going to be able to go through with it.
No.
Certainly Moira, never,
Yeah.
never
Or
think so.
no, no, no. But we also hear like it's, Um, we hear a little bit of the normal Cortland stuff where he is getting people to come over, but he's also inflating his involvement. He's playing a little bit of double dealing. He kind of is talking about Rowan in like a little bit of hushed tones, and he's certainly, doing exactly what we know Cortland to do, which is basically setting himself up in this family as like the powerful one. He's always keeping a few secrets and always has like ulterior motives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that tracks really.
It's good performance by Harry Hamlin that lets you think as an audience like this guy is completely two-faced and
Oh
we
yeah.
don't know what to believe until the second or the fourth episode in this season when basically Moira has to be there for every conversation that they have with him to make
I
sure that
know.
he's not lying. And I like that too as an audience member because I'm like, okay, so I could believe this too, unless Moira's lying. But yeah, like basically this guy is so duplicitous that you need to have a mind reader sitting there with you when you talk to him is kind of the
Right.
the takeaway.
I did find like the pacing of this episode and sort of the storyline, like the stuff with Lasher in the park with Felix, I thought that that was kind of thrown in there and would have been more interesting if it had been more than just that conversation. Like, I don't know that I think it would have been nice if it was just more than like, I don't mean like a teacher student situation, but maybe a little bit more than just that one scene and kind of seeing how he is, I don't know. We do see how he integrates this new view later, but it feels like it to me there was a lot in this whole episode that felt a little slow and a bit like trying to like give a little bit more weight to the family in both of these episodes, I guess, where I just wasn't the pacing of it felt pretty slow to me and a little disjointed. Did you feel that way too?
Well, yeah, because I'm like
We got a lot going on.
I feel the same as the party goers, where I'm just like, well, this
Yeah,
party is kind of lame. Like, I would want to leave this party too.
yeah, yeah. Like,
Like the
um,
episode maybe is written to make you feel that way. I don't know, maybe.
maybe. And then we also have, the Talamasca storyline and a lot. It just is kind of annoying, and part of it is like, oh, did any nobody saw this coming with Albrecht? Give me a break. So there was just a lot like that, in these two episodes felt it, it kind of felt like it slowed down and came to like a slight halt, like they were spinning their wheels a little bit. At least that was my feeling. Unlike the first two episodes where I was like, oh, I'm really excited to see what happens next. I will say at the weirdly, both of the two episode series end with a bit of a cliffhanger with or was it the first it was the second episode with Julian. Um so maybe it will that will launch it into a little bit more of an interesting section.
Yeah.
And then we also have, Rowan's friend slash ex-lover now that we have found out eventually.
Well,
Kind of
that was always apparent, wasn't it?
who's a parent, but we get more
I like
and
the scenes that we had with them, the
yeah.
flashback to like this brightly lit,
Yep.
musically montage scene of
Yep.
them
Yep.
fixing up
Yep.
her boat. And of course, like it's very short-lived because they're having this great, nice time and looking stylish with their knitwear. And then he's like, "Oh, and by the way, I took a job in New York and I'm leaving." And and
Yeah.
she's justifiably very upset because he didn't say anything to her about having applied for this job and that they were going to supposed to be doing their residencies together next year or something. So, like he basically, well, he chooses his career over his relationship, and it shouldn't be that heartbreaking, but obviously it also is.
Yep.
So he is. it kind of shows you their exit and how they parted on not great terms, but that she was definitely the more upset when he left, and which makes it maybe understandable that he was quite eager to get back into her good graces, or at least eager to reconnect with her,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know. Um, and their scenes together take a turn in the fourth episode also, because he's basically canceled his flight back to New York at her request, to stay in town and try to talk more. Um, and they kind of make that arrangement during the party in episode three.
Yeah. I mean, she definitely, yeah, yeah. They are have some unfinished business, I would say. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why she suggested to him that he stay. Obviously, she is also into him, but clearly it's not a good time to be in New Orleans.
right.
Like, I mean, certainly if you're a Mayfair, but I think anybody associated with them is probably a little bit in harm's way also. But I mean, that's not where it goes in these four episodes. And in fact, it goes to a different dark place. By episode four, when Ben Feldman's character Lark has been, I'm trying to remember exactly why he felt so jilted. She basically leaves their breakfast together, um, and he is upset. Why? Do you remember why he's upset with her?
I think because she's just not sharing all the things that she knows, right? And that's always the case there.
Yeah, because basically after she leaves the breakfast, I think they might have one other phone call or conversation when she's trying to deal with all the things that are going wrong in her life. And then he absconds with her DNA, which you got to
Right.
think as a geneticist is a big no-no.
Right.
Like day
I mean,
one of geneticist school is probably like, don't take your friend's DNA without their permission.
well, I think that's part of the thing with the breakfast is that she kind of admits, like, because when he asks her about the things that she's already asked him to look into, um, he asks her if it's her family's DNA because she says she has deaths in the family and that it's somehow tied. And so it immediately piques his interest. And she's not forthcoming about it. And,
And
you
he
know,
loves a puzzle.
he does. And she makes a bunch of jokes about, he makes jokes about the fact that the house is like not decorated well. But really, he's fairly interested in whatever this DNA thing is. I do think that he's obviously, there's still unfinished business with them. And we saw all of that. But I think he also this scientific mystery, the markers that he sees are so outside of anything I think he's seen that I think that's actually the reason. And that makes sense to me that he then gathers her DNA because he just can't let that go. I don't think he I think he sort of I think he does want to help her and he kind of says that and that, if she lets him in, he'll do that. But ultimately he's taken her DNA and that's like he's once again to me and we see this in the
Oh
flashback
yeah.
scene.
Any chance of their relationship being
Yeah,
rekindled is dashed by this action
yeah.
for
Like
sure.
he's gonna put his research and all of that above anything to do with her, which is what he did.
And for whatever reason, I'm of the impression that he did this out of spite, but I can't remember why he would be feeling spiteful toward her, other than the fact that she is like, she does say to him, "You should probably go back to New York," and I've got to go. And so
He
he like
also said,
cancels his flight and stays in New Orleans for one night extra
yeah,
so that they can have a really short breakfast together.
yeah.
And then she's like, "You should probably go back to New York." So he
But
might be
she
feeling a
also
little bit of
says,
whiplash.
but she also said that she would fly up there to continue the conversation.
Hmm.
So,
That's true. She offers that as a breadcrumb, but she's not giving him the information he wants. Not
right,
a good enough reason to take her DNA.
right. That's still a violation. And he immediately is like, can I get a lab to working down here? So you're gonna keep him in New Orleans for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. And I think we saw a little bit of like a bit of a preview into the fact that this conversation will be continued. And I think he just feels like he's going to have to solve this whole mystery and he's going to talk to her about the things that he's just found. So, but unfortunately, it's about her, right? So that's a little,
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to be bad. So at the party, the night before they have their breakfast, she is trying to navigate the politics of Mayfair life, which I do feel like they represent pretty well in this episode. It's complicated, right? Like on one side, you've got ostensibly the black sheep of the family, Moira, who is just really salty at you all the time.
Yeah.
And you've got Cortland who and Jojo and Dolly Jean. These are all the Mayfairs primarily who are giving her advice and telling her what to do or not really being that helpful. And she's bouncing around with other members of the family trying to prevent Cortland from undermining her too much and also like coming clean to Moira about what her plan is. And Moira's like, "Hey, okay, so you told me, great, but now you have to tell everybody in the family." And she eventually does, but not until after she learns that Evelyn has been attacked by Lasher at her bar.
Right, right.
And so that scene where he's attacking her, she's been ignoring her sister's calls. We find out why, but I don't think it's good enough of a reason.
Right.
I mean, it's a good reason. It's a Cortland reason. It's a very good reason, but talk to your sister, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because obviously if she's calling you five, six times during the course of your bartending shift, there's probably an important thing she wants to tell you.
Right. And also, to me, it totally didn't make sense because later we see um that those two are very like so tight and
Oh
really
yeah.
have trust for each other that it doesn't make any sense at all
She's
for
your rope, you know?
yeah, yeah, like it doesn't make any sense at all. So anyway, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So maybe that was a bit of an inconsistency. Another weird one is things go really badly at the party, obviously. When Rowan tries to come clean to the whole group, predictably they're like, "You lied to us." And Daphne, Alicia's younger daughter, Moira's little sister, tries to leave, and Jojo is at the door with her, I think, trying to get her to stop leaving, and Rowan inadvertently casts a thrall on them, which is the thing that Cyprian and she were under the effect of in season one, where they were in a time loop. And he was bleeding out the entire time. That was actually pretty crazy. So, and this is a problem that exists through the through the end of episode four too. That Jojo and Daphne are stuck in this thrall, and because when this happens, Rowan realizes like I didn't even really try to put them under the spell, so something has changed, which makes her realize that lo and behold, Lasher is like walking up the street outside, and that's when her powers are the strongest, is when he's around.
Yep,
Uh, yeah. And then the confrontation I found frustrating. She's like, everybody stay inside. Everybody comes outside right away.
of course.
Moira's yelling at her like, "Do it!" And she's supposed to be killing Lasher, and he's going like, "Mommy, mommy, don't do it." And he's looking all pathetic.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll also argue that like whatever genetic tie they have, I think that's pretty hard to overcome. So yeah, I do think it's the power. She likes that, but I think there is also, unfortunately, like she did create him. And I think that's really hard to overcome. I think she's very conflicted about him.
She
Um,
hesitates for, I don't know, like
a
four or five
second.
heartbeats. It doesn't, it's not forever. It's not a super long pause. But then Cyprian's there giving her the gas, unless that was really intended for Lasher.
I don't know, but either way, it was not, Sip is disappointing me. That storyline is very much disappointing me.
Yeah.
It's really just to me, especially since they combined him or were trying to like sort of anchor the story with him and have that be like like it just to me it's very lackluster with him. I don't think they have done enough to develop what's going on with him in the Talamasca and the conflict with Albrecht. I don't know. It doesn't it to me it's just not slotting in maybe in the way that they intended. I don't know. But it doesn't really like this feels very disjointed to me and also very predictable. Like who's letting Albrecht go off on his own with Lasher? Like even with the Talmasca, you would think that they would have other people with them.
Yeah.
But no, they're gonna let him go off solo. I don't think so.
And
So
this abduction happens in the street right outside the First Street house, which is chock full of Mayfairs, and they're all standing in the front steps and in the front yard. And Moira
yeah,
casually is walking up to the Talamasca and like right after Rowan's been purple gassed and Lasher's been put in a car, and Moira's just like openly speaking to the Talamasca about what just happened, and not in an angry way, and looking down at Rowan like, hmm. So I feel like that was not smart. Like I don't think Moira would do that, and I think that the Mayfairs would have more of a problem with it because I
Agree.
think they're aware of Talamasca and they don't think that they're people who you should be talking to.
Agree. And they kind of like block them out. I think Julian used them and was doing his own thing with them clearly, Cortland as well, but I don't think that there's like a ton of trust there, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was kind of weird that they just all sort of stood by. And okay, they just heard from Rowan that this was Lasher doing this, but they don't really trust her. So there's also that feeling that probably a lot of them still have that he's the protector of their family. So I don't know that I think maybe some of them feel like they could trust her. I don't know, but I would say the majority probably would have rallied and protected Lasher from Talamasca or intervened. There wasn't that many Talamasca there. Like the whole family outnumbers them.
Yeah.
But maybe it was the surprise, but that's what happened to it. So that
Yeah,
was,
like because the reveal and this all happens in like the last 30 seconds of the party. They haven't even done their little spell drink that they were all going to drink together. I'm not even sure what this was supposed to accomplish,
yeah,
but they really do nothing. The party accomplishes nothing except the information dump of oh, Lasher's been killing all these ladies
right.
and really undermining Rowan's believability as the designee.
Hmm.
That's unfortunately the outcome of the party. And she loses Lasher to the Talamasca, who have now have him in custody of some kind, or not, as it turns out.
Yep.
So, and when we start episode 4, she's getting yelled at by Moira, which if I was Rowan and Moira is the one yelling at me out of my intoxicated slumber,
Yeah,
I would be really upset. And
yep.
she does eventually curse her out during this episode, but I feel like it would have happened a lot earlier.
Agree. And then, she can't pull um Jojo and Daphne out of the thrall she put them in, and they come up with this crazy plan to have the Talamasca drive Lasher near the house so she can do it, which is
I feel
like,
like it's not a crazy plan. That's the
it's fine, except why would they do that? Of course they wouldn't do that. I
Yeah,
don't,
it
I
doesn't
don't
feel
know
like
if it
something the
feels
Talamasca would volunteer to do.
right. But I guess this ties into the idea that Sip doesn't have a line on Lasher. The whole discovery that Albrecht has absconded with him, and then obviously Sip's now in trouble with the main Talamasca, like the leadership, I
Yeah,
guess.
that part I found to be a stretch. Like,
Yeah,
why would Cyprian be in trouble with the Amsterdam chapter?
right,
Because he would just happen to be in Albrecht's office looking for clues.
right,
Like
and
you can
also
tell when you walk in there that this office has been sanitized. Like there's
clearly,
not a single item left in there.
and the other thing is they fully understand Albrecht's powers, so they totally know that like he could wipe anybody's memory, he could do whatever he's going to do. Like they're not stupid. So I think to me, it's a stretch that they would immediately treat him as if he's the enemy and that he was in cahoots with Albrecht because clearly Albrecht left him behind. That is
And
really
if they're gonna start taking people from the New Orleans chapter, they should take a lot more than just Cyprian, who never
right.
really felt like an insider
No,
at the Talamasca. He was like a freelancer almost, right? I mean, when we started this season, he was driving an old beater and living in a
I
motel
know.
room, like not part of the chap, not part of the Talamasca proper. And so if they're going to be like, clearly you are the one who was Albrecht's second and he just left you behind to look for clues in his office. What? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Did you pause the screen when Rowan or Ben Feldman was looking at his phone at the drunk text that she'd been sending him the night
I
before?
did, but I didn't read what it said. What did it say? Because I was having trouble.
It was drunk texty, so like everything was misspelled. There were like 3 or 4 texts. It was like and I don't remember. I didn't write it down, but it was like bad thing going on with the family, people stuck in my house, gotta
Yeah,
fix
yeah, yeah.
it. You should have stayed in San Francisco. You're probably asleep. Sorry. So I'm like, so she got purple gassed and then got hammered, or maybe it was a combination
Yeah,
and then started
I think maybe purple gas just put her over the edge, possibly. So,
maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, she certainly woke up in a bed with Moira yelling at her.
mm,
Uh, but so yeah, she'd been drunk texting Lark in the middle of the night. What a what a ride Rowan has been on.
hmm
Um, and so this episode begins Moira and Rowan working together more. Certainly since JoJo's not there, who would ordinarily be Rowan's go-to. Do you feel like JoJo has forgiven her for bringing Cortland out of the statue?
I don't know. Hard to know. Um, I think she's not because she basically kind of like gives her
She
like
yells at her.
yells at her and she's just like, yeah, because oh, are you really surprised that he did all of this? Of course, this is what he's doing. And then JoJo had taken um her father to task and before he gets locked up in the library. So, I think JoJo's very disappointed in Rowan, and so their trust is definitely broken. I
Or
think
at least damaged. I don't know. It feels like it doesn't feel to me yet. I mean, we'll see if she gets to escape the thrall.
I
Um,
mean, Rowan does admit to JoJo that she made a mistake in bringing him out, so maybe that is helpful. But
yeah.
basically, JoJo just is like rolling her eyes, like, "Yeah, like I've been dealing with this dude all of my life. You really, and you didn't listen to me." And so it's like, yeah. So I guess I could see maybe she can make it up to her, but I think it's gonna take a while to get there.
Frankly, during this episode, she pays for bringing Cortland out in so many different ways. Like Dolly Jean
Yep.
tells her, I could have helped you with some of this stuff, but you were listening to Cortland at that time, so I wasn't going to be helping you, out of the goodness of my heart. And Moira, I think, is kind of giving her a lot of guff too. She's like, I thought you were going to be a smart
Different.
person who understood how messed up his family was. And yeah, so she's hearing the same sort of stuff from several people.
Yeah.
But Cortland's still around by the end of episode 4 and kind of more aligned with them than he was before.
And he actually does, I mean, he does care about JoJo. And honestly, like when he's thinking about his father and sort of the interactions with him, at least at face, he is, seems to be a little bit penitent in terms of how he's treated JoJo. And we see that at the end, towards the end of episode 4, when he's talking to Dolly Jean just about, or not, sorry, his sister, Millie, about how their dad treated them and treated her. And Millie basically is like, yeah, and you're doing the same thing to your own daughter. And so I do think that there's some potential redemption here, but he's a really wily person who falls into the weakness of his own ambitions a lot. So we'll have to see what happens there. However, he does, at least at face, seem like he's really interested in helping his daughter. So maybe we'll see a turnaround there and an ally, but I don't think I would trust him entirely for sure.
Yeah. They're also kind of making him a little bit of a comic relief character, just
Yeah.
slightly, because
Yeah, for
it's hard to say that because he's also like obviously a rapist and
sure.
has been really manipulative of his family members to in the pursuit of power and Lasher stuff. So it's kind of an odd choice to make him also like a bumbling character, but and I don't know. How do you feel about that when you're kind of watching him be a bit of a clown?
Well, I think that's a little bit of how I'm feeling is that, he was definitely like there is just horrible things that he has done and we've seen it. And so I don't think that that redeems him. To me, that's like waiting for other shoe to drop because I just don't fully trust this. Maybe I think that it's a bit of a bait and switch is what I suspect because I just can't fully trust him as a character based on all those things.
Yeah,
To me, the bumbling part is basically a subterfuge. And it's an interesting choice, but I don't think you're meant to forget the absolutely abhorrent things that he has been a part of.
yeah,
And I think they are definitely trying to build a little bit of a backstory and sympathy. Obviously, his father was incredibly abusive and manipulative, but that also doesn't excuse some of the choices that he has made, obviously. So,
Was Deirdre his sister?
Deirdre was his niece.
Niece. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And Rowan calls Cortland our dad to Jojo. So
Yep.
messed up.
Yep.
Okay. And so the other major plot point of this fourth episode, Double Helix, is the Victrola, the record player, which has been kind of front and center,
Yeah.
or at least happening a lot. Like it just kind of plays on its own a lot, which it turns out is some sort of Julian magic because
Yeah.
Julian is the record player?
Yep.
Question mark.
Apparently. Apparently.
He's put his essence into it, and Dolly Jean has taken the Victrola after the party ended, um, which Rowan is surprisingly not annoyed about. She's just like, "Oh, you took it? Okay."
Yeah.
And the reason why is that Dolly Jean and Evelyn are both in love with Julian.
I guess. And they take turns like going into the joining him in the Victrola or whatever's in there and dancing with him. It's very strange. And yeah, I don't know what to think about that. And it's and Evelyn is actually older, which apparently is her shame, and turns old, I guess, when her glamour is off. It's really odd.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know what to think about that,
I
but
don't know. It's nice to see how they're doing some of these witchy power reveals. I like to see it. Moira has like some sort of seizure and says some words when she touches the Victrola initially, including the word Talto, which is also the word that's written on a scrap of paper that Cyprian finds in the fireplace right before he gets arrested,
mhm.
and still has in the car when they're driving him, presumably like to an airport to take him to Europe. So the word Talto has been said twice. We don't know what it means. And after Moira has this episode, Rowan is like, I'm going to go into the Victrola and talk to Julian. Everybody tells her, don't do it. That's a horrible idea.
And
Corlin has
even
volunteered to go in, but
Yeah, and even just before she ultimately decides to do it, the things that Dolly Jean says are pretty disturbing. She's like, he's got multiple rooms, every room has powers.
yeah,
You gotta look out for him. And
yeah,
Cortland's like, oh, he's a honeyton devil. And
yeah.
I was like, this doesn't seem like a good idea because you actually don't really understand your powers. You don't understand how these worlds work. Like, it feels very odd that she's going to agree to do this, but hey, she does it.
And
So,
Moira volunteers to be her rope, which is this like person on the outside who needs to bring you out. I mean,
so
Evelyn
I
and Dolly Jean are each other's ropes, and they're sisters and have known each other for 100 years and like love and trust each other. Moira and Rowan have known each other for 2 days, kind of semi hate each other. So I'm curious to see how this is gonna work out in episode 5.
So, I mean, I had a thought because of how when Moira grabbed the Victrola and seemed to be channeling Julian, and Roan even says that. I have a feeling that I am incorrect, but I thought maybe Julian is actually in Moira and maybe possessing her and taking care of her. So I feel maybe I'm wrong, and that's fine. But when Rowan jumps into the Victrola to see Julian, he's a mess compared to the last time we saw him.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's very
So
beardy.
yeah, so and for once I have not actually I was able to resist. I didn't look at the next episode yet, but so that occurred to me when she's offering to be the rope that seems a little convenient given a lot of the conflicting and feelings of vitriol she has towards Rowan. It doesn't, and for Rowan, I don't know that I would completely trust Moira regardless, but part of it is like the way Moira is acting in that hospital bed makes me a little worried that she's actually Jillian. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, Rowan basically does 100% trust Moira, which is probably not a great
right.
choice. But the Moira we've seen up until the Victrola scene has been a straight shooter, is just basically always yelling at Rowan for not being smart enough or good enough. And I think Rowan values that on
Well,
some
and
level.
then I guess my other thing is like you're taking all this risk to go in and talk to him and to find out more about Lasher. We already know that Julian is very much on the side of Lasher. At least that's what he seems like he is. Like he has been an ally. He has done a ton of incredibly evil things in order to just sort of solidify his power in the family and anything related to Lasher to himself. And we hear multiple people talk about that. So I guess my other sort of like question and issue with how this is going is that I don't know what they hope to glean from this or that they could get anything out of him. Other than
Yeah,
maybe he's so bored and lonely in there that he's willing to chat. But
yeah.
I just don't know that this makes sense to me that they would
Well,
even be,
it's
um,
a Hail Mary, obviously. They're like out of leads. This is the lead they
yeah,
have.
yeah,
And also the First Street houses are now starting to fall apart. I mean, things do feel a little
yeah,
bit like on the brink of destruction and the end of times for maybe all the Mayfairs. The
yeah.
Mayfairs are also in the absence of Rowan. Now that Rowan what did her thing at the party, now they're having another gathering the next day to talk about setting up a interim designee, which Moira just makes fun of that term immediately and makes me like her
Mm.
more. So things are happening. There was something else that I wanted to mention about the Talamasca. Yes, when Cyprian's trying to track down where Lasher is, he goes to Talamasca jail. And we get to see the contents of three of the cells, not as much as I would have liked. I was maybe thinking we'd have a zombie in one of the cells
Maybe
just to throw reanimated a bone. But we get a ghost, maybe. It looked
something. I
like a
don't know.
kind of like a ghost, like the spectral figure that disappears in a chair. There's a vampire, very angry looking vampire,
Yep.
and then there's just a guy who's like chanting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that they kind of showed us a few of the things, but I kind of wanted more out of that scene,
Yep.
especially the zombie.
Yeah, I know that would have been fun. Uh,
Otherwise, yeah, like there's a lot there's a lot of setup going on here and stakes getting raised. And we've also seen a vision of Albrecht talking to through Cyprian, a vision of Albrecht talking to Lasher about, I know who and what you are and where you belong, and I'm going to take you there.
hmm
And in the whiskey bottle that he's left behind for Cyprian to find, he says, "You're going to do great at the Talamasca. I'll see to it. Although I don't think they're going to trust me much after this." And then immediately Cyprian's getting arrested by the Talamasca. So I'm not so sure that Albrecht uh, really did anything for him, which was kind of annoying.
Yep.
But that's pretty much everything that's been going on in episodes 3 and 4. Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm hoping that maybe the storyline will move on in in a less disjointed way. And let's see how it goes. I think I would like to see Sip just a little utilized more in a better way than they have been. He's just like to me a really interesting character, and I don't know. It feels like that he's kind of been sidelined, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
And then of course, I'm looking forward to seeing some Ted Levine in this and seeing what happens with Julian, and maybe that we will get more answers and see how that plays out.
Yeah. Very interested to see how
And
that goes. The fifth episode is called Julian's Victrola. So I think we know where that's
you'll
going to be
know.
going on. And then followed by Michael Mass. Uh, and we'll find out what that is all about too.
Yes, indeed.
So if you have thoughts, comments, concerns about Mayfair Witches season 2, give us a shout.
Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Reanimated Podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. You can find the rest of our episodes online at reanimated.podbean.com. And you can often find us on Discord at the Brain Munchers Zombie Collective with a bunch of other zombie fans. Our intro and outro music is produced and recorded by Colin Diaz. Thanks for listening, and come on back for more zombie content from Reanimated Podcast.